Chapter 1. The second son of the Kents rewrite. Smallville, Kansas. A quiet town nestled between golden fields and endless blue skies. To many, it was just another speck on the map, a place where life moved slowly, where people knew each other by name. But for the Kent family, it was home. And for Alexander Kent, it was a reminder of everything he was not. Growing up in the shadow of a legend wasn't easy. Clark Kent, his older brother, wasn't just the perfect son, the ideal farm boy, or the best athlete in Smallville. He was Superman. The Man of Steel. The protector of Earth. And Alex? He was just normal. No super strength, no heat vision, no invulnerability. Just an ordinary human living in the same house as a god. For years, he had tried to convince himself that it didn't matter. That he could still find his own path. But deep down, a part of him always wondered, what if? What if he had been born like Clark? What if he could stand beside him, not just behind him? That was the thought that haunted him every night. And it was the thought that fate would soon make a reality, though not in the way he ever expected. A normal day, for now. The morning sun bathed the Kent farm in a golden glow as Alex tightened the bolts on a tractor engine. His hands were covered in grease, his shirt soaked in sweat, but he barely noticed. Working with machines had always been his escape. While Clark had been out saving the world, Alex had buried himself in engineering, designing gadgets and improving farm equipment. He might not have powers, but at least he had his mind. "Alex, breakfast is ready." Martha Kent's voice rang out from the house. "Coming." Alex called back, wiping his hands on a rag. As he walked inside, he saw his father, Jonathan Kent, already seated at the table, sipping coffee. Clark was there too, dressed in casual clothes, pretending to be the same farm boy he had been before the world knew him as Superman. But Alex knew better. No matter how much Clark tried to act normal, he wasn't. "You were out late," Alex commented as he sat down. "Another emergency?" Clark hesitated before nodding. "Yeah. Metropolis had a gas explosion. No casualties, but it could have been worse." Jonathan sighed. "I just hope you're not pushing yourself too hard, son." Clark gave his usual reassuring smile. "I can handle it, Dad." Alex remained silent. He had seen it before. The burden Clark carried. The weight of the world on his shoulders. And yet, despite everything, he never complained. That was the difference between them. Clark could help. So he did. Alex couldn't. So he didn't. But that was about to change. And neither of them had any idea what was coming. End of chapter 1. I will try to update at least one chapter daily, but no promises, and there may be problems and mistakes here and there and other things, but hey, I am a human and I am bound to make mistakes. Cthulhu_Yog-Sothoth creators thoughts. 8 comments 0 vote. Chapter 2. The storm on the horizon. The wind howled across the fields, carrying the scent of an approaching storm. Alex stood on the Kent farmhouse porch, watching the dark clouds gather in the distance. Something felt off tonight. There was an unnatural stillness in the air, a weight pressing down on his chest. Even the farm animals seemed restless, their usual noises replaced by uneasy silence. He frowned. Maybe it was just a storm. Or maybe it was something else. A brother's shadow. Clark walked up beside him, his presence almost too large for the space. Even when he wasn't in his Superman suit, there was something about him, an aura that made him seem more than human. "You okay?" Clark asked. Alex forced a smile. "Yeah. Just thinking." "About what?" Alex hesitated. He wanted to say about how I'll never be like you. But instead, he said, about what I want to do with my life. Clark nodded, staring at the sky. "You don't have to figure it all out right now, Alex." Easy for him to say. He was Superman. But Alex? He was just a guy with a few inventions and a dream that felt out of reach. The storm rumbled in the distance. And somewhere beyond the clouds, something watched. Waiting. And soon, the world itself would come to a stop. 10 comments 0 vote. Chapter 3. The moment the world stopped. Alex, Kent had always been the odd one in the Kent family. Unlike his older brother, Clark, who possessed the godlike abilities of a Kryptonian under a yellow sun, Alex was just normal. No super strength, no heat vision, no invulnerability. Just an ordinary young man trying to carve his own path in a world where his brother could juggle planets. And for the most part, he had accepted it. Living in Smallville had taught him the value of hard work and resilience. He helped on the farm, studied engineering, and tinkered with inventions in his spare time, hoping to contribute in ways that didn't involve punching meteors out of the sky. But deep down, a small part of him always wished for something more, something that could make him stand beside Clark, not just behind him. He never expected that wish to be answered in the most terrifying way imaginable. The night it all changed. It was supposed to be a normal evening. The night sky stretched endlessly over Smallville, a canvas of stars twinkling above the quiet countryside. The air was crisp with the scent of freshly plowed fields, and the distant hoots of owls filled the silence. Alex sat on the porch of the Kent farmhouse, flipping through his notebook filled with sketches and designs for a new project, something that could revolutionize energy efficiency. He had always been a thinker, an inventor, someone who used intellect rather than brute strength. Then, the world stopped. It wasn't a gradual thing. One moment, he was sitting there, listening to the rustling wind. The next, absolute silence. The trees stood still. The air itself felt frozen, like an invisible force had clamped down on reality. Even the distant hum of nighttime insects ceased, as if they had never existed. Alex blinked. His fingers trembled as he dropped his notebook, the leather-bound cover landing against the wooden floor of the porch with an unnatural thud, too loud in the silence. He stood up, looking around. Nothing moved. The wind had stopped blowing. The world was frozen in place. Even the distant headlights of a truck on the road had halted mid-motion, suspended as though time itself had been put on pause. Panic surged through him. He tried calling out. Clark. Mom. Dad. His voice echoed strangely, swallowed by the unnatural stillness. And then, it happened. The air rippled. A pressure, vast, suffocating, descended upon him, pressing against his skull like an invisible hand gripping his mind. A presence loomed over everything. It was something beyond comprehension. A formless, titanic force that made his very existence feel insignificant, like an ant standing before an ocean. His body convulsed, his knees buckling as his vision swam with impossible symbols, ancient, eldritch, vast in their meaning yet incomprehensible in form. For a brief moment, he saw everything. Threads of fate stretched endlessly, intertwining and shifting with an unseen will. Concepts of time, space, and destiny unraveled before him like a tapestry being rewoven in real time. And in that moment, something took notice of him. A presence gazed upon him, not with eyes, but with an awareness so immense it felt like a god's attention had been drawn. Then, the whispers began. They spoke in no language he knew, yet he understood them. Witness. Become. Choose. A flood of knowledge, forbidden knowledge, poured into his mind. He saw paths, 22 of them. Each one a different existence, a different way to become. The fool. The seer. The red priest. The tyrant. The scholar. The sleeper. The justiciar. The mother. The doorkeeper. Each pathway carried a weight of destiny, an evolution of power and meaning. And then, pain. Unbearable, excruciating pain. It was as if his entire body was being rewritten on a fundamental level. His blood boiled, his bones twisted, his mind expanded beyond human comprehension. He felt like he was dying and being reborn simultaneously, his very soul reshaped by forces beyond his understanding. When the agony subsided, he collapsed onto the porch, gasping for breath. His fingers dug into the wooden floor, his body drenched in sweat. The world remained frozen for a few more moments. Then, with a sudden rush, everything snapped back into motion. The wind howled. The trees swayed. The distant truck continued its journey as if nothing had happened. But Alex knew. Everything had changed. The awakening. His body felt different. He could feel the pathways within him, all of them. The moment he had been exposed to that vast presence, something had forced all 22 meander pathways into him, locking them within his soul. Each one slumbered at sequence 9, their potential dormant but undeniable. He instinctively knew that he had become something that should not exist, something even beyond what the Justice League could comprehend. His breathing was ragged. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. Then, a whisper echoed in his mind. Act accordingly, and you shall ascend. The meaning was clear. He needed to act in line with the pathways to advance. No rituals, no external forces, just acting. He clutched his head as the knowledge settled. He was now a meander. The only meander in the entire DC universe. And that made him the most dangerous anomaly in existence. Because if the Justice League ever found out what he was, they would never let him go. First steps into the unknown. Alex forced himself to stand, his limbs still trembling from the ordeal. His mind buzzed with new instincts, new understandings of the world around him. He needed time. Time to figure out what this meant, what he could do. But one thing was clear. He had to hide. He had to ensure that neither Clark, the Justice League, nor anyone else realized what had happened to him. If they found out, they would try to control him. Study him. And if they ever saw what he could become, they might try to destroy him. He took a deep breath, staring at his hands. The paths were open. The power was his. And if he played his cards right, he would not just survive in this world. He would thrive. You see, the reason I couldn't upload the chapters the previous day was because I was kidnapped by aliens. My boss wife, to help them in their works, had to take her out, so I had to fight them and then upload the next day. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 14 comments, 0 vote. Pissed. Download the app for additional rewards. More events, more perks. Winning you more free perks. Download now. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth. Download app now. Chapter 4, The First Step into the Abyss. Alex sat in his room, staring at his reflection in the mirror. The dim glow of his bedside lamp cast soft shadows over his face, highlighting the tension in his jaw, the sharpness in his eyes. He looked the same, no sudden growth spurts, no glowing marks, no physical transformation. But inside, he was different. He could feel something beneath the surface, coiling like a dormant beast. It was power, an unfamiliar force pressing against his mind, waiting to be called upon. He wasn't just human anymore. He wasn't even Kryptonian. He was something else. Something that had no place in this world. The weight of realization settled in. He had awakened as a meander. And not just any meander. He had access to all 22 pathways, each a different road to godhood, to power beyond imagination. And power like that always came with consequences. He took a slow breath, steadying himself. He needed to understand what had happened, what he could do. He needed to test his abilities. Because if he didn't learn to control this, it would destroy him. The first experiment. Stepping out into the cool night air, Alex moved to the backyard of the Kent farmhouse. The world was quiet, the distant hoots of owls and chirping crickets blending into the stillness. It was almost peaceful, if not for the storm brewing inside him. He closed his eyes. Which pathway should I call upon first? A pull in his mind gave him an answer before he even had to think. The seer. Immediately, his perception shifted. The world around him became sharper. It wasn't just his sight, his entire awareness expanded. He noticed the subtle shifts in the grass, the way the wind moved unnaturally in certain directions. Patterns emerged where before there was only randomness. It wasn't like Clark's super senses, he couldn't see microscopic details or hear a whisper from miles away. No. This was something deeper. It was like he could see meaning in things that shouldn't have meaning. The way a blade of grass bent under the wind meant something. The way an owl turned its head at a specific moment meant something. He didn't fully understand it, but it was there. An instinct. A knowing. And then, as he focused, something else happened. A vision flickered before his eyes. He saw himself standing in the very same backyard, but in the vision, he turned his head to the left at a precise moment. Alex followed the vision's guidance, turning his head left. And then, a leaf that had been falling from a tree missed his face by an inch. His heartbeat quickened. He had seen that moment before it happened. It was a fraction of a second, barely anything, but the implications were staggering. This wasn't just enhanced perception. It was foresight. Testing another pathway. Shaken but excited, Alex focused on another pathway. The hunter. A cold clarity spread through his body. His breathing slowed, his heart rate steadying as an instinctive calm settled over him. Suddenly, he heard everything. The rustling of a mouse moving through the fields. The faint heartbeat of his parents inside the house. The shifting of an insect's wings against a tree. He felt predatory. Every movement had meaning, every sound carried information. His muscles tensed, ready to move at a moment's notice. No longer just a human standing in his backyard, he was a hunter, aware of every detail in his surroundings. And with that awareness came control. Without thinking, he crouched low, pressing his hand against the dirt. He wasn't sure how he knew, but his body responded automatically. If something were to attack him right now, he knew exactly how to react. This wasn't just a physical enhancement. It was instinct. Mastery. If he continued down this path, he wouldn't need super strength to be deadly. He would be unstoppable in his own way. The first challenge. His hands clenched into fists as realization set in. He had barely scratched the surface of what he could do. And already, it was terrifying. The Justice League could never find out. Not Clark. Not Batman. Not anyone. If they knew what he had become, they would see him as a threat. Someone to monitor, to study, maybe even to eliminate if they thought he was too dangerous. He couldn't let that happen. But he also couldn't just ignore this power. He needed to act. To advance. That meant taking risks. That meant walking the fine line between hero and villain. His mind raced as he considered his options. If he played this right, he could manipulate everything from the shadows. He could create identities, personas that operated in different roles, ensuring no one ever connected the dots back to Alexander Kent. He needed a plan. And the first step was learning how to advance in his pathways. His abilities had come with knowledge, fragments of understanding whispered into his mind the moment he awakened. And among that knowledge was the key to growing stronger. Act according to the pathway. He didn't need elaborate rituals. He didn't need external forces. He just had to play the role. And with 22 pathways at his disposal, that meant he could become anyone. The birth of a mask. The idea formed in his mind, solidifying with each passing second. If he wanted to experiment with his power, he couldn't do it as Alexander Kent. That name was too closely tied to Clark. Too vulnerable. But a new name. A new face. That was different. He would craft multiple identities. Some as heroes. Some as villains. Some as ghosts that existed only in rumors. And no one, not even Batman, would ever know they were the same person. His lips curled into a small smile. This was how he would survive. Not by overpowering Superman. Not by fighting the Justice League head-on. But by becoming something they could never predict. A shadow in the dark. A whisper in the chaos. A force that pulled the strings of the world from behind the scenes. They would chase ghosts. They would hunt phantoms. And by the time they realized what was happening, it would already be too late. The path forward. Alex exhaled slowly, his heartbeat steady. Tonight had proven something important. His power was real. It was limitless. But he had a long way to go. This wasn't just about gaining strength. It was about mastering it. He needed to understand every pathway, every ability, every secret hidden within the power he had inherited. And that meant patience. Planning. He wouldn't rush into this recklessly. He would learn. He would prepare. And when the time was right, the world would know his name. Not as Alexander Kent, but as the unseen force pulling the strings of both heroes and villains alike. And not even the Justice League would see it coming. Okay guys, I need ideas for major arcs, minor arcs, like which villain should he face up and other things. So anyone got any ideas? Just give me the outline, I can work in the detail. Also, if you could be more specific in the outline, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you, bye bye. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 18 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 5. Stepping into the unknown. The night stretched on as Alex sat on the roof of the Kent farmhouse, staring at the stars. The vast sky above was an endless sea of possibilities, just like his future. He had power now. Real power. And yet, he was still just one man sitting in the middle of nowhere, trying to figure out what came next. Becoming a Beyonder wasn't just about gaining abilities. It was a transformation of the soul, a reshaping of his very existence. If he was going to advance, if he was going to survive, then he needed to act. The problem was, where to start? He knew the answer before he even asked the question. The same way he had unlocked his powers, he had felt an instinctive understanding of what came next. He had to act. The seer pathway required him to observe, to understand patterns, to grasp the hidden truths of the world. If he wanted to grow stronger, he had to become more than just someone who saw, he had to become someone who knew. And that meant information. If he wanted to play the game, he needed to understand the board. And the best place to start? Metropolis. Into the city. The next morning, Alex packed his bag and got ready to leave. His parents thought he was heading out for an engineering seminar, and Clark didn't question it. He was too busy juggling his life between the Daily Planet and being Superman. That was good. The less they knew, the safer they were. As he rode the bus toward Metropolis, he kept his focus sharp. He wasn't just going to the city. He was studying it. Watching the people, analyzing the streets, memorizing key locations. By the time he stepped off the bus, he already had a mental map forming in his mind. The first step to gathering information was knowing where to look. He wasn't going to break into the Batcomputer or hack the Watchtower. That would be suicide. But Metropolis had other sources. Crime networks. Underground information brokers. People who knew things the Justice League didn't bother with. And Alex intended to find them. A new identity. He needed a mask, both figuratively and literally. He couldn't just walk into a criminal hideout and start asking questions. He had to become someone else. So he did. Using the seer pathway's ability to read people, he observed the way they moved, the way they spoke. He picked up on mannerisms, accents, small details that made a person believable. Then, he found what he needed, an old abandoned apartment on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't much, but it gave him a base to work from. Over the next few days, he built a new identity. A face that wasn't Alexander Kent. A whisper in the shadows. Not a major player, not yet. Just someone who knew things. Someone people would come to for answers. And slowly, he started pulling on the strings of Metropolis's underworld. The first connection. It wasn't long before his efforts bore fruit. One night, in a dimly lit bar near the docks, he overheard a conversation between two men, low-level criminals but valuable in their own way. Word is, someone's been moving high-tech gear through the city. Stuff even Luther's people don't have access to. Alex's interest peaked. He leaned in slightly, careful not to draw attention to himself. Who? One of the men asked. The other shrugged. No one knows. But whatever it is, it's big. The kind of thing that makes people disappear if they ask too many questions. That was all Alex needed to hear. Information like this was a perfect test. If he could track down the source, if he could figure out what was going on before even Batman did, then he would prove to himself that he was ready for the path he was about to walk. A path that would take him deeper into the abyss. And he had no intention of turning back. Following the trail. The next morning, Alex began his investigation. The criminals from the bar hadn't mentioned names, but they had given him something far more valuable, a location. A shipping yard near the industrial district. As he walked the streets, he used his seer abilities to scan his surroundings. He watched the way people moved, noted patterns in behavior, and followed subtle clues. When he reached the docks, he found what he was looking for. A shipment. Unmarked containers being moved in the dead of night, no logos, no official documentation. Highly suspicious. Alex positioned himself on a rooftop nearby, watching. Then, he focused. Reaching deep into his abilities, he activated his hunter pathway. His senses sharpened, his body became still. Every movement, every sound was amplified. Then he saw it. A group of men unloading the containers, speaking in hushed tones. Their body language was tense, alert. These weren't ordinary workers. They were mercenaries. Armed. Dangerous. And whatever they were transporting, it was important enough to kill for. Alex needed more information. The first real test. He waited until one of the men separated from the group, walking toward a parked car. Perfect. Moving silently, Alex followed. The man stopped near the edge of the dock, pulling out a cigarette. Alex struck. With his enhanced reflexes, he moved faster than the man could react. A quick blow to the back of the head, and the mercenary slumped unconscious. Alex dragged him into the shadows. Then, he got to work. Using his seer abilities, he read the man's body language, scanning his unconscious form. He focused, reaching into the seer pathway's ability to understand hidden meanings. And then, the knowledge came. Not in words, but in understanding. This man wasn't just a mercenary. He was ex-military. His stance, his training, it all pointed to a background in Black Ops. And his employer. Alex didn't recognize the symbol on the man's uniform, but it wasn't Luthor Corp. Someone else was behind this. Someone powerful. The next step. Alex exhaled, standing over the unconscious man. This was it. His first real step into the underworld. And it had already led him to something bigger than he expected. He had two options. Walk away. Forget about this, stay in the shadows, and avoid unnecessary risk. Go deeper. Find out who was behind this, why this operation was happening, and use that information. For a moment, he hesitated. Then, he smiled. There was no choice. He was going in. And if someone powerful was behind this, then that just meant the game was getting interesting. End of chapter 5. Dash 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 dash. Also, I need more ideas for more plots. Damn it, someone give me more ideas. Also, can someone tell me what the cover picture of the book is currently? I uploaded one, but to me it just shows nothing, so someone please tell me if it's updated. This chapter is uploaded early because of the Power Stone you guys donated. I didn't thought you guys would seriously give so much Power Stones. So if you want more chapters, keep on donating and reach 100 power stones and I might just upload another chapter. Please don't, I only have half of it done, I need more time. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 13 comments 0 vote. Chapter 6. The First Hunt. The moon hung high over Metropolis, casting long shadows over the industrial district. Alex crouched on a rooftop, his eyes locked on the dimly lit warehouse below. The seer in him whispered of unseen forces at work, threads of fate intertwining in ways that could not be ignored. Tonight wasn't just a simple smuggling operation. It was a test. A test of his abilities. A test of his control. And a test of how deep this web of power and influence truly ran. The silent approach. Alex focused, allowing his seer pathway's intuition to guide him. Patterns of movement among the guards became clear, two-man patrols circling the perimeter every 5 minutes, a sniper stationed on the roof, a hidden watcher near the loading bay doors. Professional. He activated his hunter abilities, slowing his breathing, making his movements as silent as a shadow. His body adapted to the night, his senses sharpening. Every footstep, every shift in the wind, became a part of his awareness. Carefully, he scaled down the side of the building, landing just outside the guard's patrol range. The pathways in him allowed him to bypass short distances, flickering forward in near silence to bypass an open area. A guard stood near the entrance, unaware of the presence approaching from behind. Alex moved swiftly. Iron-blooded night gave his strikes precision and power, one sharp hit to the base of the man's skull, and he collapsed without a sound. With a flick of his wrist, Alex pulled the unconscious man into the shadows. He was in the shipment. Inside, the warehouse was filled with crates, some marked with military-grade labels, others unmarked but humming with faint energy. Alien tech. The Justice League would want to know about this. But Alex wasn't here to play hero. He moved between the crates, his spectator abilities allowing him to sense the emotions of the people in the room, nervous anticipation, greed, tension. Something big was about to go down. Then, he saw him. A tall, imposing figure clad in black metal stood at the center of the operation, giving orders. His voice was laced with a mechanical hum. John Corbin. Metallo. The sight of him confirmed Alex's suspicions. This was bigger than a simple arms deal. Someone powerful was backing this, and he needed to know who. Disrupting the deal. Alex crouched behind a stack of crates, considering his next move. He couldn't take them all head-on, not yet. But he could make them turn on each other. Reaching into his mysticologist abilities, he conjured a faint illusion near the warehouse's entrance, just a flicker, a shape in the darkness. One of the guards stiffened. What was that? His partner frowned. What are you talking about? Before they could investigate, Alex triggered his prisoner abilities, sending a faint mental nudge of paranoia into the first guard's mind. He tensed, gripping his gun tighter. I swear, I saw someone. His partner scoffed, but the damage was done. A seed of distrust had been planted. Then Alex moved to phase 2. With a flick of his hand, he activated his planter abilities, causing a crate of alien tech to tremble slightly. Sparks of unstable energy crackled in the air. Shit, something's wrong with the shipment. Panic spread through the room. One of the mercenaries pulled out his radio. Sir, we've got a problem. Before he could finish, Alex struck. Teleporting behind him in an instant, he placed a firm grip on the man's shoulder and activated his sun abilities. A surge of heat passed through his palm, making the guard yelp in pain. Before he could cry out, Alex delivered a swift, precise strike, knocking him unconscious. The radio clattered to the ground. And the entire room went on high alert. Metallo's robotic eyes scanned the area. We have an intruder. The mercenaries drew their weapons. Alex smirked. Now the real fun begins. Battle in the warehouse. One of the mercenaries spotted movement and fired. The moment the bullet left the gun, Alex activated his savage pathway reflexes, dodging with inhuman speed. The bullet whizzed past, embedding itself in a crate behind him. Before the shooter could react, Alex used his Justiciar abilities, sending out a wave of righteous authority. The man hesitated for just a second, long enough for Alex to close the distance. A sharp blow to the ribs. A twist of the arm. The gun fell from his grip. Alex caught it and flipped it in his hand. Another guard charged at him, but Alex activated his arbiter abilities. His presence became overwhelming, his very stance exuding dominance. The man faltered. Alex didn't hesitate. A quick strike to the temple, and the guard crumpled. By now, Metallo had seen enough. His chest panel slid open, revealing a core of glowing green kryptonite. "You should have stayed hidden," Metallo growled. His mechanical arm whirred as it transformed into a heavy plasma cannon. Alex tensed. Even with all his abilities, direct combat with Metallo was a bad idea. But he didn't need to win. He just needed to escape with information. The escape. As Metallo fired, Alex activated his apprentice teleportation again, flickering out of harm's way. The blast struck a crate behind him, sending shards of alien metal flying. Using his scholar pathway, Alex analyzed the warehouse's structure in an instant. Weak points. Load-bearing beams. The quickest way to bring it all down. He acted immediately. He threw a small explosive charge at one of the key supports. With a boom, the structure groaned, parts of the ceiling beginning to collapse. Chaos erupted. Mercenaries scrambled for cover. Metallo cursed, shielding himself. Alex used the distraction to sprint toward the exit, activating his reader abilities to absorb every detail in sight, the layout, the enemies, the stolen tech. He committed it all to memory. Then he was gone. Ra's al Ghul takes notice. From the warehouse, Alex stood atop a rooftop, watching as emergency sirens filled the air. He had disrupted the operation. Stolen data. And left without a trace. The real game was just beginning. Deep in the shadows, in a hidden fortress far from Metropolis, an old man studied a report on the failed shipment. Ra's al Ghul's fingers tapped against the wooden surface of his desk. "So," he murmured, eyes narrowing. "A new player enters the field." He turned to his assassin. "Find out who he is." Talia al Ghul stepped forward, a smirk playing on her lips. "Consider it done, father." End of chapter 6. Give me more plot ideas. I need this ideas. Give me more power stones. Cthulhu_Yog-Sothoth creators thoughts. 14 comments 0 vote. Chapter 7, Shadows of the League. The city was alive with its usual symphony of distant sirens, car horns, and the murmurs of people walking the streets below. But up here, perched on the rooftop of a high-rise overlooking the ruins of the warehouse, Alex was untouchable. The warehouse raid had been a success. He had stolen valuable data, disrupted an illegal shipment, and forced Metallo to retreat. But he knew the true consequences of his interference had yet to come. Someone else had taken notice. Ra's al Ghul. And his League of Assassins was already hunting him. A slow smirk tugged at Alex's lips. Good. The silent pursuers. The seer in him whispered of unseen threats. Alex knew he was being followed. Even if he hadn't seen them yet, he could feel them. The subtle pressure of watching eyes. The faint disturbance in the air. The presence of trained killers moving in the shadows. He remained still, focusing his spectator abilities. The emotions of his pursuers became clear: cold calculation, silent anticipation, readiness to strike at a moment's notice. They weren't amateurs. They were some of the best assassins in the world. But to him, they were just another challenge. With deliberate slowness, he pushed off the rooftop and dropped down into a nearby alleyway. It was the perfect trap. A game of shadows. The assassins followed, sticking to the walls, waiting for the right moment to strike. Alex kept walking as if he didn't notice them. Then, in the blink of an eye, he vanished. Apprentice teleportation. One of the assassins stiffened. He turned his head just slightly, sensing something behind him. Too late. Alex whispered in his ear, voice laced with justiciar authority. You should have stayed in the shadows. Before the assassin could react, Alex's hand snapped out, hunter-trained precision, striking the nerve point in his neck. The assassin's body stiffened before crumpling into unconsciousness. One down. The other two realized something was wrong. They moved into defensive stances, scanning the alley. Alex chuckled, using Arbiter presence to fill the air with an oppressive weight. Doubt crept into their minds. Are the legendary assassins always this sloppy? Alex mused, his voice carrying an edge of amusement. They attacked. The first assassin lunged with a dagger. Alex sidestepped, his savage reflexes kicking in, allowing him to dodge by a hair's breadth. Before the assassin could recover, Alex struck, his iron-blooded knight strength driving a knee into the man's stomach. The second assassin was faster, spinning with a curved blade aimed for Alex's throat. Alex smirked. Teleportation. He flickered behind him in an instant. Then, a brutal elbow strike to the skull. The assassin collapsed, groaning. Two down. The warning. Alex knelt beside the barely conscious assassin, gripping his chin lightly. You were sent to test me, he murmured, his spectator ability allowing him to sense the assassin's wavering resolve. The man's breathing was shallow. He didn't answer. Alex's planter abilities kicked in. With a flick of his fingers, he manipulated the faint traces of life within the man's body, making him feel like his veins were tightening. A harmless trick, but one that felt real enough. The assassin's eyes widened in fear. Tell your master. Alex said, his justiciar aura amplifying the command, that I know he's watching. The assassin nodded shakily. Alex released him, stepping back into the shadows. Let Ra's al Ghul come. Meanwhile, in a hidden fortress, the League of Assassins operated from the shadows, unseen and unknown, moving the world's fate like pieces on a chessboard. In a grand chamber lit by flickering torches, Ra's al Ghul listened to the report in silence. The assassin, still shaken from his encounter with Alex, kneeled before the demon's head. He knew we were watching. He played with us. Raz sat back in his chair, fingers steepled. No name. No known affiliation. His voice was a whisper of contemplation. And yet, he defeated you all effortlessly. Talia al Ghul, standing nearby, scoffed. Perhaps they were simply incompetent. The kneeling assassin flinched at the insult but said nothing. Raz ignored the jab. His mind was elsewhere. This newcomer had power. But more than that, he was aware. And that intrigued him. Slowly, a smile crept onto his face. Talia, he said. She straightened. Bring him to me. Her smirk matched his. Consider it done. End of chapter 7. I need more ideas. Also give me more power stones if you want more chapters. If we reach 70 power stones I am uploading another chapter. Creation is hard, cheer me up. Vote for me. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 11 comments 0 vote. Chapter 8, The Invitation of the Demon Head. The night air was still, thick with an unnatural silence. Alex Kent sat on the rooftop of an old apartment building, his eyes scanning the dimly lit streets below. He had expected retaliation after his stunt with the League of Assassins. Ra's al Ghul wasn't the type to let such an insult slide. And so, he waited. They should be here soon. His muscles tensed as he extended his spectator senses, brushing against the invisible threads of fate. His pulse remained steady, but his mind sharpened. Then, there. A shift in the wind. A whisper of movement. They had arrived. The hunt begins. The attack came swiftly. A throwing knife whistled through the air, aimed straight at Alex's head. He twisted his body at the last second, the blade grazing his cheek before embedding itself in the rooftop. There, faster than expected. No time to think. A figure dropped down behind him, a shadow in the night. The assassin moved like liquid death, his blade cutting toward Alex's back with practiced precision. Alex barely managed to parry the strike with his forearm, but even with iron-blooded knight durability, he felt the sting as the blade sliced through his jacket, drawing blood. TCH. This won't be easy. Before he could fully counter, another assassin lunged from the side. Alex pivoted, narrowly avoiding the thrust aimed for his ribs, but his dodge left him open for an elbow strike to the gut. Damn, that actually hurt. He staggered back, breathing hard. 6 assassins surrounded him. Their movements were flawless, each strike calculated to limit his options. They weren't just testing him, they intended to take him down. Alex grinned through the pain. Now this is a challenge. A struggle in the dark. One of the assassins fainted left before launching a vicious high kick at Alex's skull. He barely had time to raise his arm to block, but the impact sent him skidding backward. Another attacked, slashing downward with a curved dagger. Alex instinctively used hunter agility to duck, but the assassin anticipated it, adjusting his strike mid-motion. The blade ripped through Alex's shoulder, sending a sharp burst of pain down his arm. Alex hissed. These guys are no joke. He rolled to the side, evading another blow, but his footing faltered for a split second. A mistake. The nearest assassin took advantage, striking him hard in the ribs. Alex coughed as air left his lungs, stumbling before catching himself. He wiped the blood trickling from his lips. His justiciar instincts screamed at him to counter, but he forced himself to remain calm. The assassins didn't let up. 2 attacked at once, one going for his legs, the other aiming a dagger at his throat. Alex reacted on instinct. He teleported just before the strikes landed, blinking a few feet away, only to be caught mid-movement by another assassin. A powerful palm strike slammed into his chest, sending him crashing into a nearby ventilation unit. Damn it! His vision blurred for a second. His body screamed in protest. The assassins didn't wait. They advanced, weapons raised. Alex gritted his teeth. All right, time to push back. Turning the tide. They moved in for the kill. Alex forced his battered body into motion, dodging a downward slash by mere inches. He retaliated with a brutal elbow strike to the attacker's jaw, sending him staggering. Another came from the side. Alex barely blocked in time, but his arm throbbed from the previous damage. He needed an opening. With a flick of his fingers, he used planter abilities to subtly alter the air pressure, just enough to disrupt their balance. The assassins hesitated for half a second. It was all Alex needed. He surged forward, channeling savage brute strength into a devastating punch to an assassin's ribs. The man gasped as he was lifted off his feet and sent flying into the rooftop railing. The remaining 4 adjusted, but Alex wasn't done. A precise hunter kick to another's kneecap, making him crumple. A sudden arbiter palm strike to the chest, sending another assassin stumbling back. A justiciar commanded glare, making the last man freeze for just a moment, before Alex drove a fist into his gut. The rooftop fell silent. The only one still standing was a lone assassin, panting heavily. He reached for a smoke bomb. Alex flicked his fingers. The bomb failed to ignite. The assassin's eyes widened in horror. Alex took a step forward, his voice low and cold. Tell your master I'm coming. The assassin ran. The invitation arrives. Less than an hour later, Alex sat alone on the rooftop, nursing his wounds. His body ached, but the adrenaline dulled the pain. Then, a presence approached. Talia al Ghul. She moved with a deadly grace, her emerald eyes sharp. She studied him for a long moment before speaking. You fight well, she said. But you're reckless. Alex chuckled. I prefer, entertaining. Her lips curled in amusement, but there was analyzing calculation behind her gaze. My father wishes to speak with you, she finally said. Alex leaned back against the ledge. And if I refuse? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then the next time we meet, it will not be as an invitation. The air grew tense. Alex considered his options. Then, he sighed and pushed himself up. All right, let's go. Talia studied him for another second before turning away. Follow me. The demon's head. The League's hidden stronghold was deep within the mountains. Alex took note of everything as they arrived, the architecture, the guards, the security measures. By the time they entered the grand chamber, he had already mapped out several escape routes. At the far end of the room stood Ra's al Ghul. The demon's head watched him with piercing green eyes, a faint smirk on his lips. You have made quite the impression, Ra said. Alex smiled despite his injuries. I tend to have that effect on people. Roz chuckled. Indeed. He stepped forward, voice laced with authority. You have proven yourself strong. Intelligent. Capable. His gaze sharpened. Join me. Alex tilted his head. And if I refuse? Roz gave a slight nod. Then you will not leave this place alive. A long silence stretched between them. Alex grinned. Now this is getting interesting. End of chapter 8. Give me more power stones. If we reach 90 power stones goal, then I am going to upload another chapter, or it's going to be uploaded the next day. 11 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 9, The Demon's Trial. Alex stood before Ra's al Ghul, his posture relaxed but his mind sharp. He was in the lion's den now, and every move mattered. Ra's al Ghul, the demon's head, was a figure of legend, his green eyes, like molten emeralds, assessing every detail of Alex's presence. His gaze swept over Alex, clearly searching for any sign of weakness, any flaw that might betray him. You are an enigma, Cain, Ra said finally, his voice low, echoing with centuries of wisdom and power. Your skills exceed those of ordinary men. Your instincts are refined. Yet, you do not carry the scent of the League. Alex smirked but kept his expression neutral. The pressure of the room was intense, but he refused to show a single sign of unease. Inside, his mind was whirling, processing every word, every shift in the air. How much do I reveal? Maybe I just like keeping my secrets, Alex replied, offering a casual shrug for effect, though the truth was far more complicated. Talia, who stood slightly behind her father, folded her arms, her stance poised, her eyes calculating. Or perhaps you are hiding something more. Her voice carried challenge, the suspicion clear in her tone. Alex turned toward her, his smirk widening just enough to mask the sharpness beneath his cool demeanor. Now, that would ruin the mystery, wouldn't it? His tone was light, but his eyes were anything but. Roz chuckled, the sound rich with centuries of experience. You remind me of another man I once sought to recruit. A man who wore a mask, just like you. Alex could feel the weight of those words. There was only one man Roz could be referring to, Batman. The Dark Knight, who had thwarted Roz's plans repeatedly. But Alex wasn't Batman. He was something different, something that Roz wouldn't understand. Roz took a step closer, his gaze never leaving Alex's face. Tell me, Cain, do you believe in destiny? Alex shrugged nonchalantly. I believe in opportunity. His voice was even, but inside, his mind raced. This is the test, the key to seeing if Roz will keep me around. But I have to play my cards carefully. One wrong move, and this could be over before it even starts. Roz nodded approvingly, his lips curling slightly in a smile. A wise answer. Then allow me to offer you an opportunity. Suddenly, the chamber doors swung open, and 2 League assassins dragged in a prisoner, an ordinary man, but battered and bruised. His ragged breath was the only sound for a moment as his eyes darted around, realizing his fate. Roz gestured toward the prisoner, his voice hard. This man has betrayed the League. He sold our secrets to outside forces. The prisoner's eyes darted to the floor, too afraid to meet Alex's gaze. He was a mere pawn, an expendable tool in Roz's grand design. Roz continued, if you wish to prove yourself worthy of the League, you will execute him. Show your loyalty. The chamber grew heavy with silence. Alex's mind worked quickly, weighing his options. Execute the man, and it's a show of loyalty to Roz, but to do so would prove nothing beyond what they expect. His fingers twitched toward the dagger placed before him, the cold steel glinting in the dim light. He studied the blade carefully, forcing his expression to remain neutral. What is this test really about? He held the dagger in his hand, spinning it once, twice, in his fingers, a casual gesture meant to misdirect. He needed to show competence but not give too much away. For a moment, his eyes flickered toward the prisoner, the man who had betrayed the League. Alex could see the fear in his eyes, the desperate plea for mercy. But Alex's emotions remained carefully contained. This wasn't about empathy, it was about survival. Roz's sharp gaze never left him. You must act swiftly, Kane. The League does not suffer hesitation. Alex's lips curled in a cold, almost mocking smile. Tell me, Roz, why should I execute him? If I am to prove my loyalty, surely there are other ways. Roz studied him for a long, tense moment. The League values loyalty above all. It is your actions that will reveal your true nature. The tension in the room escalated. Alex took a slow step back, the dagger still gripped loosely in his hand. His eyes swept the room, assessing his options. The assassins surrounding him waited, poised and ready. Then, in an instant, Alex dropped the dagger, his fingers twitching with purpose. With a flash of speed, he teleported behind the nearest assassin, catching him off guard. Before anyone could react, Alex had snapped the assassin's neck in one fluid motion. The body hit the floor without a sound. For a moment, there was absolute silence. The remaining assassins tightened their grip on their weapons, but Alex was already moving again. Teleporting to the next closest threat, he struck a well-timed punch to the back of the second assassin's head. The man crumpled to the floor, unconscious before he had a chance to react. Ra's al Ghul remained impassive, his sharp eyes never leaving Alex. He had expected this. But Talia's voice cut through the air, sharp with suspicion. You didn't kill the prisoner. Alex turned toward her, his voice smooth. I didn't need to. I neutralized the threats before me. Isn't that what the League is all about? His eyes glinted with challenge. The assassins exchanged looks, unsure of what to make of Alex's actions. Roz remained silent, his gaze calculating. This was a test, but Alex had passed it. Roz's eyes softened slightly, but there was no warmth in his look, only the glint of something dangerous. Impressive. You are more than what I expected. You will do. Alex remained silent, the tension in the room thickening. This was only the beginning, but Alex could feel the weight of Roz's approval, and it tasted like victory. Roz turned to the other League members. This man, Kane, has proven his worth. From this moment forward, he will be a part of the League. Kane. The name hit Alex like a physical blow, but he remained perfectly still. This name was his shield, a carefully crafted mask that covered his true identity. No one would know who he really was, not now, not yet. Roz continued, Kane will join us, but understand this, you will have to prove your loyalty time and time again. The League does not trust easily. Alex nodded slightly, keeping his face neutral. Understood. Roz took a slow step toward him, his eyes narrowing. And if you wish to remain among us, you will follow my commands without question. Fail, and there will be consequences. Alex smiled, though the expression didn't quite reach his eyes. I don't take orders unless I see the benefit in them. But I will play your game, for now. Roz smiled back, his lips curling into something that was almost a sneer. Good. We will see how well you can survive this game. Talia, standing to the side, exchanged a glance with her father. Alex could feel the weight of the League's eyes on him. They were scrutinizing him, but none of them had even the faintest idea of the real Alexander Kent. Ra's al Ghul finally turned his attention back to the prisoner, the traitor who had once been a pawn in the League's game. As for you, Ra's said coldly, you will pay the price for your betrayal. Alex didn't watch as the traitor was executed. He had already made his mark. Talia stepped closer to Alex, her eyes narrowing in evaluation. You may have the skills, but loyalty is earned. And my father does not forget betrayal. I'm not here to betray you, Alex replied smoothly, his voice unwavering. I'm here to survive, and perhaps, in time, to take your place. Ross chuckled from across the room. Ambition. I admire that in a man. But do not think you can outwit me forever. Alex inclined his head slightly. We'll see. End of chapter 9. Here you go. Another chapter for my dear readers. Now give me more ideas if you want to make it more interesting, because I am a newbie writer, so I am operating on information I remember and I am getting from you guys to make this fanfic, so I would appreciate if you could give me some idea. Also throw those power stones here. Okay, bye. Have a good day. 21 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10, The Shadow's Path. Alex stood in the center of a dimly lit training chamber, his muscles tense but his expression unreadable. The stone walls surrounding him were ancient, worn by centuries of blood and sweat. The League of Assassins had trained warriors for generations, molding them into deadly instruments of their will. And now, they were testing him. Ra's al Ghul sat at the far end of the room, his sharp emerald eyes watching every movement with clinical precision. Beside him, Talia observed just as intently, her arms folded, her expression unreadable. The rest of the League stood in the shadows, waiting. Alex had passed the first test, proving his capability and taking on the alias of Kane. But now came the true challenge, earning his place. I have seen your skills, Ra's began, his voice smooth yet commanding. But strength alone does not define a warrior. A true assassin must be more than just a blade in the dark. Alex remained still, listening. He knew what this was, another game, another test. And if he wanted to survive, he had to play along. Ra's raised a hand, and from the far side of the room, 3 League assassins stepped forward. Each was clad in dark, fitted armor, their faces hidden behind black masks. They were elite, trained in the League's most lethal techniques. You must fight them, Ra's declared. Individually, you may be able to defeat them. But together, they are unstoppable, unless, of course, you are truly worthy. A test of endurance. A test of survival. Alex sighed internally. They always love their dramatic speeches. Still, this was a crucial moment. If he performed too well, suspicion would arise. But if he was too weak, they would discard him. He had to find the perfect balance. Talia smirked slightly from the sidelines. Try not to die too quickly, she taunted. Alex chuckled. I'll take my time, just for you. Ra's gave a slight nod, and the fight began. The trial begins. The first assassin lunged, a blur of motion. His dagger gleamed under the flickering torchlight as he aimed for Alex's throat. Alex dodged, twisting his body just enough to narrowly evade the blade. His mind raced, analyzing his opponent's movements. Fast. Precise. But predictable. The second assassin attacked from the side, aiming a spinning kick toward Alex's ribs. He barely managed to raise his arm in time, absorbing the impact and skidding back. Pain radiated through his side, but he didn't let it show. The third assassin was already moving, closing the gap with inhuman speed. A sword flashed toward his chest. Alex teleported an inch to the left, just enough to let the blade miss him by a hair. The sudden movement startled his opponents. Ra's al Ghul's eyes narrowed. He had noticed. Damn. I have to be more careful. Alex didn't use his Beyonder powers recklessly. Every ability had to be woven seamlessly into his fighting style, appearing as nothing more than skill and instinct. He focused on the first assassin, shifting into an evasive stance. The assassin lunged again. This time, Alex sidestepped and grabbed his wrist, twisting it in one fluid motion. The dagger clattered to the ground. Without missing a beat, Alex kicked the assassin's leg, sending him off balance. Before the man could recover, Alex slammed his elbow into his jaw, knocking him unconscious. One down. The second assassin wasted no time, swinging a short sword in a deadly arc. Alex dodged backward, but the assassin anticipated the movement, feinting at the last second. A sharp pain bloomed across Alex's shoulder as the blade grazed him. Talia leaned forward slightly, eyes gleaming with amusement. Roz remained unreadable. Alex ignored the pain, using the moment to counterattack. He ducked under the assassin's next strike, delivering a quick punch to his ribs. The man staggered, and Alex followed up by grabbing his wrist and snapping it. The assassin cried out, dropping his weapon. Alex finished him with a swift kick to the head, sending him sprawling. 2 down. The last assassin hesitated. Alex smiled. Having second thoughts. The man snarled and lunged, moving faster than the others. More experienced. More dangerous. Alex barely had time to react before the assassin's dagger slashed toward his stomach. He twisted his body, but the blade cut deep into his side. That was close. Blood dripped onto the stone floor, but Alex didn't stop moving. He grabbed the assassin's wrist, using his own momentum to pull him forward. With a well-placed knee to the stomach, the assassin doubled over. Alex finished him with a brutal uppercut, sending the man crashing to the ground. 3 down. Silence filled the room. Ra's al Ghul finally stood, his expression unreadable. Impressive. Alex wiped the blood from his side, ignoring the sharp sting. He offered Ra's a smirk, masking his exhaustion. Talia stepped forward, eyeing his wounds. You're bleeding. Alex glanced down at the cut, then back at her. Really? I hadn't noticed. She rolled her eyes. Raz crossed his arms. You have skill, but skill alone is not enough. The League requires loyalty, discipline, and purpose. Alex tilted his head. And what exactly is my next lesson? Raz studied him for a long moment. Then he spoke. You will undergo the trial of the mountain. A murmur spread through the gathered assassins. Some looked intrigued. Others looked grim. Alex frowned. Let me guess, climbing a mountain while people try to kill me. Talia smirked. Close. You must reach the peak of the Himalayan stronghold within 3 days. No supplies, no outside help. Raz added, survive the journey, and you will earn your place among us. Alex exhaled slowly. Of course, it's something like this. He didn't need food or water the way ordinary humans did, thanks to his Beyonder abilities. But the real challenge wasn't the cold, it was the League itself. This wasn't just a test of endurance. It was a test of control. If he wanted to maintain his cover, he had to struggle just enough, not too much, but enough to seem human. Ra's al Ghul turned toward him. You leave at dawn. Alex met his gaze, unflinching. Then I'd better get some rest. Talia's smirk widened. You'll need it. Smallville, Kansas. Jonathan Kent sat on the porch, his weathered hands gripping a coffee mug as he gazed at the open farmland. The sky was overcast, and the cool breeze carried the scent of rain. Clark stood beside him, his expression tight with worry. Still no sign of him, Clark murmured. I've checked every city, every place he might have gone. Jonathan sighed, rubbing his forehead. He's never disappeared like this before. Even if he was in trouble, he'd let us know. Martha stepped outside, holding a small photo of Alex, a picture of him standing next to Clark, both smiling. He wouldn't just run off, she said softly. Something's wrong. Clark clenched his fists. He had searched with his super speed, scanned with his X-ray vision, and even reached out to contacts in the Justice League. But Alex was gone, vanished without a trace. "I'll keep looking," Clark said firmly. Jonathan nodded, but there was something in his eyes, a fear he wouldn't say out loud. A fear that Alex might never come back. End of chapter.